welcome you warmly to this session, Digitizing Logistics in Africa, Exploring Leapfrogging Opportunities for Technologies Despite the Infrastructural Deficit. My name is Thorsten Hülsmann. I'm the CEO of Digital Hub Logistics in Dortmund, Germany. And I'm very happy that you participate in this today's session of the International Physical Internet Conference 2021. Let me allow to give you a brief introduction before I introduce the speakers and panelists of this session. As you all know, the Physical Internet Initiative aims at transforming the way physical objects are moved, stored, realized, supplied, and used, pursuing global logistics efficiency and sustainability. And exactly this is partly the goal of the DigiLogic project. Progressively, more businesses operating in African markets are adopting digital solutions to monitor their supply chain or broaden their core business. This applies to startups and large established corporations as well. DigiLogic, which is a Horizon 2020 project, is at work with 5 digital innovation hubs, 3 of them in Europe and 2 in Africa, to support SMEs, innovators, and large corporations to meet the challenges ahead. In the context of today's 8th International Physical Internet Conference, DigiLogic brings together experts on the ground to discuss which are the key logistics challenges and opportunities where digitalization can impact the most. Therefore, I'm very happy to have a great lineup of speakers and panelists today in this session. And I would like to ask the panelists to introduce in a short input themselves. Stefan, may I ask you to introduce you to the audience of this session?
Hello all, my name is Stefan Jarmash. I'm the Middle East and North Africa and part of East Africa CEO for Integrated Service Solution based in Dubai. Very happy to be part of this panel and this discussion because it's something that Africa is in need of digitalization, that's for sure. In some part, and we'll go into further, it's advanced. In some other parts, we face challenges, and hopefully with the digitalization, we'll be able to overcome them. When it comes to challenges, especially during the COVID has upped the challenge that we have seen in our industry, ranging from geopolitics to countries shutting down, opening up, and to scarcity of equipment, but we'll discuss it later. But anyway, thank you so much for inviting me to this panel. Looking forward to a fruitful discussion.
Thank you, Stefan. Second in line is Chuka Alumona from Procter & Gamble. Chuka, would you be so kind to introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Thorsten. I am Chuka Alumona. I am the Product Supply Director in Procter & Gamble. Leading go-to-market transformations in Middle East and Africa. I'm also part of the global team designing the go-to-market of the future for Procter & Gamble. It's a great honor to be part of the panelists for this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chuka, for this introduction. Third in the line is Malaika Judd from Sandy. Malaika, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
My name is Malaika Judd. I'm a CFO and co-founder at Sendi, based here in Nairobi, Kenya.
Thank you very much, Malaika. And then finally, we have Kingsley Kwala. From Optimis. Kingsley, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Thorsten. Thank you very much for inviting us to this panel. My name is Kingsley Kwala. I am the CEO and founder at Optimis, and we are focused on helping cargo owners and carriers around the world to automate their cargo claims. At Optimis, I'm responsible for the vision of the company, for money, but also for the people. It's a pleasure to be with you all.
Thank you so much, Kingsley. So now, as an introduction into our topic, digitizing logistics in Africa, I would like to ask everyone to give an input about the challenges and opportunities his or her organization on the ground in the daily operations is facing. And yes, afterwards we will have a dialogue and try to figure out what exactly the opportunities and challenges are and what this means for the daily operations in logistics in Africa. I would ask as a first introduction, Chuka Alumona from Procter & Gamble to give his perspective from a fast-moving consumer good giant, I would say, what this means in daily operations. Chuka, would you like to share your thoughts with us?
Surely, Thurston, I hope you can hear me. Awesome. Okay, yes, coming from the fast-moving consumer goods, we know that logistics is critical to our business, right? So getting the product to the shelf, even getting raw material to the production facilities, producing it, and then getting it across to the consumer. Everything involves logistics. So yes, I'll spend some minutes to talk about the current challenges we face today, narrowing it down to Africa. Although some of those challenges span across the different continents of the world, but we're focusing today on the challenges in Africa. Let's start with the very obvious one, which is the situation we have today. This infrastructure issue is something that is critical to logistics and is a big opportunity in Africa. The other thing, which we will talk in details, will be lack of data. You know, data is everything in the information world today. Unfortunately, availability of data to predict issues, to make decisions, is really, really missing in Africa, right? Or is not at the stage where we expect it to be in Africa. So this is a big opportunity, and we can talk a little more in details about what this can bring to logistics later on. The other thing is, we know the big issue of government policies in general, but I'm going to narrow it down to how government policies affect Forex availability, you know, foreign exchange availability. You see, some countries, we know, a few of the countries are not able to pay foreign suppliers because of lack of Forex, right? So it becomes very, very difficult to do business when you have to import either raw material or finished goods, and then you don't have the right Forex to pay the foreign suppliers. So it becomes a big issue. And this is something that is gotten across several countries in Africa. And then we talk a bit again about security challenges, right? Looking at security challenges and not just terrorism. I'm talking about hijacking of trucks. And no country is exempted from this. It's caught across all the way. Even the countries you seem to be like the top tiers in Africa, you see lots of issues of truck hijacking, you know, kidnapping issues and stuff like this. This, to a great deal, affect logistics. Then I can talk a little bit on the trade agreement within Africa. Compare what we have in Africa and what we have in Europe, right? You see, Africa is so sectionalized, if I have to use that term, in such that, yeah, you have trade agreement within the Western Africa, which is like ECOWAS. You have within the Southern Africa, which is like SADC, and we have COMESA in the Eastern Africa, and there's ECAS in the Central Africa, and so on and so forth. But if you want to do something between the East and the West Africa, there is nothing that exists. We can talk about what is in the pipeline later, but as of today, it's a big challenge, right? So if I'm going to get something from the Eastern to Western Africa, I pay huge duties and stuff like this, right? So yeah, again, the last part I'll mention, so I'll give room to other people to talk about, will be capability and reliability of even the logistics providers we have today within Africa, right? So capability is not where we expect them to be. We see a huge opportunity in capability and also reliability. And the good news is that the information technology, the digital age, has a lot of solutions to this problem I mentioned, and we're going to talk about it as we go down the section. I'll hand over to Thorsten. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuka.
The foreign suppliers, so it becomes a big issue. And this is something that is gotten across several countries in Africa. And then we talk a bit again about in Africa. And then we talk a bit again about security challenges, right? Don't know, Africa.
Let me allow to give you a brief introduction before I introduce the speakers and panelists of this session. As you all know, the Physical Internet Initiative aims at transforming the web and explaining a little bit. Okay, perfect.
Looking forward to a fruitful discussion.
Thank you. Is at work with 5 digital innovation hubs, 3 of them in Europe and 2 in Africa, to support SMEs, innovators.
Yeah, sorry, if you can allow me, for the audience that don't know, Africa has the second biggest population from continent standpoint. And the good news about Africa is the average age, or the median age in Africa, is about 20 years. So you can see how it will play in what we're talking today, the digital world. Thinking of median age that is very young and the digital age and technology. We're going to delve into that as we go into the session.
Thank you. Thank you as well for this, let's say, framing conditions and explaining a little bit. Okay, perfect. Okay, second in line is Stefan. And Stefan, you are second in line because we thought that a logistics service provider has maybe some answers where companies like Procter & Gamble are relying on, and also your cooperation is key in this area. Please, would you go forward in giving us some insight in your company, in your business, and the topics of digitalization in logistics industry?
Sure. I mean, coming back to Chuka's point, it's a bit my deal with all Africa is there's humongous potential to optimize efficiency, and but that's all based on need of, I'm just following up on what he said, based on need of better infrastructure, less government barrier. I mean, there's a lot of countries, we spoke about Egypt, where importing can be a nightmare just because they're so, they have a protectorate in terms of their business. But at the same time, again, I said, the opportunities that grant us as integrated service solution, if you ask me where we're big in, where we are banking on for the next 10, 20, 30 years is Africa. We've just opened Ethiopia, which Chuka didn't mention, but I believe it's a pretty big market in terms of 102 million people is not a small number to forget. But
you are second in line because we thought that a logistics service provider has maybe some answers where companies like Procter & Gamble are relying on, and also your cooperation is key in this area. Please, would you go forward in giving us some insight in your company, in your business, and the topics of digitalization in logistics industry?
Sure. I mean, coming back to Chuka's point, it's a bit my deal with all Africa is there's humongous potential to optimize efficiency, and but that's all based on need of, I'm just following up on what he said, based on need of better infrastructure, less government barrier. I mean, there's a lot of countries, we spoke about Egypt, where importing can be a nightmare just because they have a protectorate in terms of their business. But at the same time, again, I said, the opportunities that grant us as integrated service solution, if you ask me where we're big in, where we are banking on for the next 10, 20, 30 years is Africa. We've just opened Ethiopia, which Shuka didn't mention, but I believe it's a pretty big market in terms of 102 million people is not a small number to forget, but it's a very, very nice market and opening up, even though there's geopolitical situation right now. We are in Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Ivory Coast, where we are doing more and more working into a B2C concept. And with Sandy, that's something that we could discuss to see how we can collaborate for them doing the end, the last mile delivery service, basically. Challenges today with the pandemic, and Shuka and some of the people who are in the logistics field will know, equipment. Equipment is a very, very big challenge because there's not much going on in terms of prices are going through the roof. We all have to be, in a way, thinking about how to think outside the box. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, all the doors that Shuka had spoken about, it was also the challenge that we face as well. But opportunities are grand with every challenge. I always tell people it's a problem. Like, no, we always have a solution. And Africa is definitely a place that it's a great play field to make sure that we make it better, more efficient. In terms of human capital and training is what we need also. I think this is where we're lacking in terms of in logistics, in terms of the know-how, but that's something that is working, it's step by step, basically. When it comes to the young age, and I'm following on what Shuka had said, and yes, digitalization is a future for logistics, especially in Africa, because I'm a bit older and I can see that people don't even use emails anymore. They do not want to receive any email notification. It's all with an application, with all the stuff. However, where we are seeing, and you tell me if I'm wrong, where we are seeing challenges in Africa today is on the payments. When Amazon wants to get into Nigeria or into any country in some sub-Saharan Africa, not everyone has access to Amazon's website or the application, but not everyone has access to a credit card capability. And this is where I think, from a last mile delivery, this is where I think some challenges are happening, where basically the person would like to purchase it through the Pay by Phone and all this local applications that we have in Africa, but the credit card is not there. So how does Amazon get into that business to be able to accept payments? Is some of the challenges. Is something that we are working on with a local provider right now into Nigeria. And yeah, that sums up of what I have to say.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I think also maybe to complement, could you maybe also tell us a little bit more about your company, ISS Global Forwarding? For instance, what is the main domain you are focusing in? What are the concrete goods you are distributing? Or are you, a full service provider covering every kind of markets?
Integrated Service Solution is a logistics provider. So we handle freight forwarding, air freight, ocean freight, trucking globally. We are 2.5 years old. We were incorporated in September 2018. And again, the focus was Africa. And you see, I joined after 26 years with another company. I joined ISS because many multinationals, especially the American multinationals, when you talk to them about Africa, they're like, oh, forget it. I'm not, I don't want to touch it, right? Just because of compliance, and they just don't know it, right? So when ISS came to mind, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted, because it's my, I was born in Senegal, so I know the terrain, I love the continent, so that kind of it was complementing. So yeah, so we do door to door globally, Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, you name it, we're there.
Okay, thank you so much, Stefan. Okay, next I want to hand over to Malaika. Why? I mean, we heard now from Chuka in behalf of Procter & Gamble, but also from Stefan in behalf of ISS, challenges and opportunities from companies which are rather big, I would say. And I think what is also a future topic is how to overcome the challenges. And yes, I think Malaika can tell us something, how a potential solution or how potential solutions to bridge, for instance, last mile logistics could look like. Malaika, please, the word is yours.
Thank you. And I couldn't have asked for a better intro from Chuka and Stefan, because they basically laid out all the problems and the potential solutions. And I would love to advertise what an amazing job Sendy is doing in solving those problems. Just to sort of put a little bit of a metric on top of what Chuka and Stefan were already talking about, logistics in Africa can add as much as 320% to the cost of goods sold on a shelf. So if you're an FMCG, that's 320% of the value of the good can be logistics. In Europe, it's typically 90. So you can imagine that ultimately those in more developing countries and in this continent are paying more for the same goods than those in Europe and the West. And so clearly that signals that there is a massive problem with logistics. And if I summarize it, it's fragmented, it's costly, and it's informal. And this is the problem with logistics in Africa. To add on top of what Stefan was saying, is so Sendy, we built Sendy 7 years ago now. We are a tech logistics company, and we set out on a mission to make it easier to trade. And we looked at trade and we said, what do you need to trade? You need transportation, you need marketplaces, and you need financial services. And so this goes to what Stefan was saying with payments. Sendy started 7 years ago as a tech logistics platform. And Chuka was talking about the unreliability of transporters. Right? Sendy started with that problem, and we said, how do we make it easier, more efficient, cheaper to work with the existing transporters on the road? We don't want to come in and put new vehicles on the road. We want to be as asset light as possible, right? Because we're also looking at efficiency. But how do we make it easier to work with the existing transporters? And so we started, and today we will move any good anywhere in Kenya and across East Africa. So we are a technology, we are an app for the consumer, but we're much more complicated than an app. But we are a platform that makes it easier for businesses to connect with transporters to move any size of good. So you can move a small envelope and you can move a container of cement through Sendy's platform. We are the technology that powers that. Last year when COVID hit, we also said, okay, it's time to look at the other barriers that are restricting to trade. And those are marketplaces and financial services. So on top of our logistics platform, we built a B2B marketplace for manufacturers to sell directly to consumers. And we also build a platform of financial services to support our merchants, our manufacturers, and our transporters with cash flow, because that's a barrier to growth. So today, Sendy can move any good anywhere in East Africa. So we're based in Nairobi. We have an office in Kenya and Uganda. We also have recently touched down in Ivory Coast. So we can move any good anywhere. We can process the transaction of your sale. So we can connect Procter & Gamble directly to the mini marts across Nairobi. And we can make sure that the transporters have working capital, the mini marts have working capital, and the manufacturers are also managing their working capital as well as they sell these goods. So as I mentioned, all of this is done on technology. We are not a reseller. We're not a transportation business. We're not a payment processor. We are the technology that plugs in all of these players, the traditional transporters, the manufacturers, the payment processors, the financiers. We bring them all together in an ecosystem and provide the value-added services to make it easier for everyone to trade.
Very good. Thank you so much, Malaika. I think this really was a comprehensive overview and a very amazing, let's say, not answer, but it was an answer, as you phrased it, to some challenges which definitely are there on the ground. Maybe, Malaika, also for you, one remaining question. When we are thinking about your customers, about the typical users of your platform, are these, let's say, the senders or more the transportation companies? What is, or is it a mix of all of them? Could you maybe explain this a little bit more detailed?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it ties back to a challenge. So we started out, selfishly, we started out as building a platform for ourselves as individuals. Every time we demoed the tech, the individuals we were talking to said, "This is amazing, can you do it for my business?" And then what we saw is we were doing individuals, we were doing businesses, and we were also even providing technology for larger logistics companies like DHL. And so we saw that in the end, technology can be a solution to everyone's logistics problems.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, now I want to bring into the discussion Kingsley from Optimis. And maybe just a short story to tell. We met each other 2 years ago because Kingsley, with his second, let's say, service, a surveyor, participated in one of the most important digital logistics award, which was facilitated and is also currently facilitated by Digital Hub Logistics from Germany. And yeah, it was very interesting because what Kingsley presented there brought already 2 years ago some of these challenges and also the interplay between digital technologies and global logistics challenges into this award and into this pitch. So we met each other 2 years ago, and I thought immediately when we now started to plan this session, okay, Kingsley can, with his optimization topics and services, but also maybe with his experience from a couple of use cases on logistics and transport between Africa and Europe or within Africa, bring some very interesting input into this discussion. Kingsley, may I ask you to, talk about your company, what you are doing, and maybe also share with us the one or the other use case which fits to the topic of today.
Thank you very much, Thorsten, for that. Yes, I remember 2 years ago, like it was yesterday, when we took part in this pitch competition, and we were one of the top 3 winners. Basically, what we do at Optimis is we are trying to solve some of the existing problems that exist for members of the panel. So for guys like, say, for example, Procter & Gamble, that are moving goods around the world, despite our best efforts, despite the best efforts of guys like ISS and Cindy, or from a broader perspective, shipping lines and airlines, cargo sometimes arrives with damage. So just to put things in context, over 90% of global trade is transported by sea. A significant portion of that arrives with damage. In fact, one of the high executives of Maersk, the shipping line, indicated that 1 out of every 3 voyages arrives with a delay. So as you can imagine, that creates a significant opportunity for claims to arise. That creates an opportunity for things to go wrong. You all will remember recently the case of the vessel Ever Given in the Suez Canal and the trouble that it caused around the world. Africa in particular is feeling the brunt from hijacks, as Chuka mentioned earlier, to road accidents that are rife in East Africa, we see that these problems are a real pain. And what makes it particularly painful in the African continent is that the insurance penetration level in Africa is quite low. For many years now, it has remained below 3%. What that means is, in the event of damage to cargo in transit, the cargo owners are, they are really feeling the pain of this. Their business is going to a halt, their capital has gone down the drain. So we thought, how can we support this process to ensure that if someone like Cindy was transporting a cargo and that happened for one reason or other to be damaged, how do we ensure that you do not spend a lot of time administering that claim? The statistics that we have around claims and the turnaround times is, for the shipping industry, is typically around 3 to 6 months. Now, if you consider a small African cargo owner that relies on that cargo or relies on the successful delivery of that cargo, 3 to 6 months is a long time for them to wait for things to be resolved. Also, in instances like this, carriers will typically require that you demonstrate what was the quality of your cargo at the beginning before this cargo was entrusted to the carrier. How do they know that you're not lying to them that the cargo was damaged? How do they know that you actually gave them cargo that was of sound quality? So what we have done, particularly with the solution that Thorsten mentioned, is to build this web-based mobile application where you're sending goods from South Africa to say Kenya, for example. The buyer doesn't really know who the seller is. So the buyer is asking them, so how do I know the seller is going to provide me goods of the quality which they have described? The seller, on their part, they're thinking, okay, I'm shipping my goods off to Kenya. In the case of perishables, how do I know when the buyer says the good arrives with damage? How do I know if that is actually true? Today, they would have to rely on a third party, usually be a surveyor, to go and inspect the goods and things like that. But the cost of this service is quite high. If you consider on the African continent, it is quite challenging from a cost perspective, but also from an availability perspective. So we built this solution where you can use this tool to collect certain objective information about the handling and quality of your cargo, and you can share this with interested third parties. It could be the carrier, it could be the insurance company, it could be your buyer, it could be your seller, such that this information, this free flow of information, which is reliable and trusted, makes it easier for people to do business together. And in the event that there's damage to this cargo in transit, with our predictive claims resolution platform, we make it easier for these claims to be resolved. So we are putting money back into the pockets of your customers quicker than they would, as they would like to receive it. And I think it also helps improve, how they perceive the service that you're providing to your customers. Now, just to talk a little bit about key use cases that we have experienced on the African continent, we have, since we launched, we've worked extensively with food exporters. So from Ghana to Italy, for example, or a buyer in South Africa that is importing plantain from Ecuador. And we also picked up from some customers in Kenya who are exporting avocados to various countries in Europe. And the problems are almost identical. So the farmer takes time to harvest stuff, pack the container and ships it off. And unfortunately, for one reason or the other, the avocado doesn't arrive in sound condition. So what do? If they don't have insurance, then for this particular customer, they stood to lose about $400,000 for 15 containers of avocados. So you can see the impact of these claims can be quite far-reaching for small companies on the African continent. From a European perspective, there are many companies in Europe who are looking to trade with Africa, but there's still that element of doubt in the back of their minds. They ask themselves, how do I know, with all the stories that I hear, that this African company is going to deliver on their promises? So I suppose with the tools that we are building, we are trying to bring back trust. In fact, our tool is called Ukweli. Ukweli is a Swahili word. I think Sandy, you probably be well aware, it's a Swahili word which the guys in East Africa use all the time. So Swahili, ukweli is a Swahili word which means trust. So basically what we're trying to do with this evidence collection tool is to bring back trust to this logistics chain and then layer on that claims resolution as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kingsley. And again, I mean, this fits, from my understanding, quite nicely to the topic we are discussing. Maybe also for you, a second question immediately. Could you also give
what will go first, what will go later, and then what will not even go at all, right? Without even, there are some things they've captured as sensitive good. But the good thing is that we believe AFTA will drive at least 50% increase in intra-African trade. So, which is a very good news, right? Because if you remove duties today, then a lot of African countries can trade within each other, which is very good. To even make AFTA go haywire, maybe move it from 50 today to higher, will be what we talked about the infrastructure development. Imagine if there is like rail connecting or road or less stringent government policies. When AFTA is fully implemented, then someone in, let me use an example, can receive something from Kenya and transport it fast to all the landlocked country like Rwanda and Burundi and stuff like this easily, right? You can produce in Kenya and move to those places, and then there will not be duty. You can even produce in Kenya and move to DRC, because from distance standpoint, it is not too far, but the infrastructure is not there. But today, without AFTA, if you move from Kenya to DRC, you need to pay duty, right? You need to pay a couple of things. So that will increase that. So we're looking forward to full implementation of the AFTA requirement. This will boost trade by over 50%. We expect that as it comes, certain things like infrastructure development will come with it to make it even go beyond the 50%. So it is a welcome development. We're looking forward to it. We're hoping the government will move faster beyond what was done December 2020 to implementing it, so we can start getting the benefit of it.
Thank you so much, Chuka. And maybe I wanted to ask Stefan also to co-comment on this. From my perspective as a naive, let's say, theoretical guy, this would mean that, well, business will be easier for you, Stefan, as a logistics service provider. All markets will grow in the future. Is this also your perception?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, earlier I spoke about challenges and governmental barriers and the duty and the uneasiness of doing business in some countries. Nigeria is a perfect example, where, I give you an example, you can import textile, even though they're not big manufacturer of textiles. So yeah, that definitely will increase trade, will lower the cost of goods to the end user, and obviously I believe everyone will benefit out of it. The biggest challenge is the governments. I mean, we all know the continent. We all know in some places they're not really working hard enough for the country. But I believe as we progress through the years, the mentality, the younger generation will definitely be less egoistic in terms of what's for them versus what's for the country. But yeah, from a trade point of view, from a volumes point of view, from all sort of, it's just a win-win situation for everyone, I believe. Yeah. And that will also create jobs in terms of manufacturing, because then Procter & Gamble will definitely beef up their manufacturing in continent to be able to distribute to the region. So that's what happened in Egypt, where Nokia came in, Samsung came in, all those big companies came in to manufacture so that they can distribute to East Africa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let us then maybe have a closer look to another topic which was already mentioned, government policies. And Stefan, you also mentioned it in regard to AFTA. Malaika, what is your experience? You said, okay, your platform is helping to overcome a lot of challenges, but what are government policies? What role do government policies play in your business, and how do you foresee the development in the near future? Will this affect your business and the whole, let's say, logistics performance in the respective countries?
Government relations is always important for any business in Africa. Again, as a tech company, the challenges that we have are a little bit different than, say, if we were just a traditional logistics company. As a tech company, we might build the platform that sells logistics, and the same way that Uber or Bolt or Glovo are coming in, and it's a new age of businesses that the government hasn't quite figured out how to work with. We sit in that same pool, and we're constantly pushing the boundaries or pushing the government to update how they look at businesses, how they regulate businesses like ours. Are we a logistics company? Are we a tech platform? Are we a marketplace? And how do they support us or potentially hurt us? In Kenya, for example, 2 new taxes came in this year. One is a digital service tax, which applies to anyone who's processing sales on behalf of others, so e-commerce platforms. And one is a minimum turnover tax, which applies to all businesses on general sales. So you can imagine for a tech platform that is trying to facilitate all of these partners in the logistics ecosystem to come together. We are both a digital service, and we are potentially to the government a general turnover business. So these are challenges that we face. I don't have a solution. I can say that for us, we are a local company. I know I'm not the best face to this business, but I can say that being a local business, we've had some advantages where we've had a little bit more attention and willingness to listen to us, because there is an interest for local businesses to solve some of the infrastructural challenges. So we've definitely had the attention of the government, as well as some of the things that we have proactively done to help modernize policy. Is we have actually proactively gone to our government in Kenya twice to do specific tax rulings to educate them on the new ways of marketplaces, logistics, tech, etc., to ask them to change the way they look at these businesses moving forward.
Thank you so much. And maybe also to hand over to Kingsley, also keeping in mind the after developments and maybe the role of governments. What is your experience? Does this affect your business or the business of your clients? I mean, now the implementation of after, and also the different government policies. Is this something which is important for your business?
Yes, certainly. As far as after is concerned, it directly impacts our customers. They want to sell more. They want to sell to neighboring markets. We've got many customers in South Africa that are looking to move perishable goods into far-reaching countries as Cameroon. So you know, simplifying the marketplace definitely does good to them. From a government regulatory standpoint, this is an aspect that has impacted us directly, particularly from a still fresh perspective, and particularly in relation to movement of money within Africa. So the nature of our business is, you know, we manage these claims on behalf of our customers, and the money is transferred to us. Then we transfer this money to our customers. But it has not, recently, it has not been very easy because, you know, with policies coming from the central bank, they have required us to bring documents from 5 years ago, from when we started trading with particular companies, contracts and things like that. And as you can imagine, some of the documents that are required from a Cameroonian perspective needs to come from the finance department. But when we go to the finance department, the document is not readily available. So what that means is that there's a lot of time which is passed from when we have collected money from our customers and we need to send that money out. But it's sitting in our accounts because we need to be compliant with the policies that are in place. And that has made it really difficult for us to operate. It is putting us at a disadvantage vis-a-vis our competitors who are staying in other countries around the world, who have better fiscal policies where things work. It makes it really difficult for us to be able to trade with other African countries. But I think when you look at services that are coming up, like the guys from OPay or from Paystack, I think these are welcome innovations because they're going to make it easier for us to be able to move money within African countries, and I think that is something that we are looking forward to.
Thank you so much for this insights. So let me again go back to one challenges we discussed at the very beginning. I mean, we didn't discuss it, but it was mentioned: security and security challenges. And I think it's clear, we understood that there are many challenges there and various fields where security plays a role. But maybe to start with one question, Stefan, what is your experience? How are technologies used, and which role could technologies play to respond to security challenges? First question. And second, related to it, in your case, your company, are you cooperating with the local technology providers in these respective questions and challenges?
In terms of security and technology, the only thing that comes into mind, our industry, I'll be honest with you, we are still in the 19th century. The mindset, I mean, the words that we use, demerge, break bulk, many of those words are from the 1900s, 1800s. So we are still very behind in terms of digital. I mean, companies like Sandy or more and more companies are coming into the digital platform, and that's something I always say my 2025, but I'm hoping it's 2022, where basically I will have everything here on my phone versus email, etc., etc. So blockchain would be one of the solution for security, I would think. But then again, it all depends on what kind of security. I'm talking about security of data or security of the goods themselves. Security of the goods themselves, we always have Kingsley to insure it for us. I don't think the digitalization will be able to minimize that much security of the goods themselves, except unless you have it, when things happen, they happen, right? So it's too late by the time you find out about it. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thank you.
I'd love to add to that. It is true that sometimes it's too late by the time you find out about it. But one of the things that we're doing is, so everything is tracked in real time, and then plugged into the tracking, the driver has the ability to send alerts if something's going wrong. And when an alert is sent, we actually plug into a third party here in Kenya called Rescue. And Rescue is an emergency service. And they have different classifications of what is the emergency, and they can dispatch. Is this a driver emergency? Is this a goods emergency? Sometimes if it's the truck has broke down, so technically nothing is wrong with the goods and the driver is okay, but because the truck is broke down, what we see is the biggest risk is theft when you have a broken truck on the side of the road. And so what we need is a fast first response for actual security agents who arrive. And so through the technology of real-time tracking and real-time alerts, we can dispatch through our third party called Rescue. They will dispatch security agents who will go and guard the truck. And so it's not a perfect solution, but it's a faster response time. And so this solves the issue of, like, by the time you get there, it might be too late. How do we get there faster?
Fantastic. Thank you, Malaka. And I think it's also pragmatic, so to say, right? A very pragmatic solution, which definitely comes from the challenge.
And it's actually, I have to say, refreshing to see that kind of technology, that kind of tool available in Africa, because again, we go back to the false concept of Africa. Oh, it's behind, but no, there's a lot of things that are much more advanced in Africa, even from a payment point of view, that are not even in the US. They don't even have it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Chuka. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think thank you, Malaika and Stephanie, for the input there. There are a lot of things that's coming up with bringing visibility on the either location of the trucks or whatever equipment you're using to convey the goods, right? One of the good things I've seen in recent times is actually what Samsung did, their SOS alert system, right? So in Samsung phones now, you know, if you press the power button 3 times, it automatically send a message to whoever you have saved as emergency contact to tell them that you have a problem, it's an emergency. It takes picture with the front camera and the back camera, and every certain frequency, it shows your location in the GPS. It automatically triggers the GPS. So, you know, a lot of technology companies are trying to integrate this into their tracking system, right? So the moment a truck is hijacked, the truck should be able to release the location at every other maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. This way, the security team following the truck will know where the truck is headed and are able to intercept and remediate the issue before it becomes catastrophic, right? So having these RFIDs or chips in the trucks with the tracking devices with this SOS system in place, this will help in a long way towards curbing the hijacking of trucks, right? So, but the thing is, things related to terrorism is a different story, right? Because even if you know where the truck is and you know it's a terrorist attack, you need some level of security to go after those trucks, right? So yes, in areas where it's considered very unsafe, we know certain places where they are very unsafe. Companies don't even want to go there. They don't even want to distribute them. There are few distributors or customers that want to play in those areas. So the cost of services becomes so high, and this type of things, even if it triggers, the security team are skeptical about following the trucks because these guys are armed to a different level. Yeah, so but that's about terrorism. But for normal hijack, I believe there are systems in place now that are really, really covering it, and we're seeing significant improvement in that area. And thanks for bringing this question. Before I drop it off, I don't know our listeners. We've been saying after. I don't know whether they understand what after stands for. So we don't assume they all know what after stands for. It's African Continental Free Trade Agreement, right? So it is a free trade agreement that enables intra-African trade with elimination of all the duties and all the costs associated with countries that are not in a trade agreement, right? So that's what AFTA is trying to bring, just for the benefit of our listeners and people watching. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chuka. This is important input.
Thorsten, if I may, I'd just like to touch upon the hijacks that Chuka and Malaika mentioned before.
Of course.
So putting aside terrorism, I think one thing that we have to also bear in mind is that some of the problems or some of the solutions to the most prevalent problems could just be common sense. If you look at a country like South Africa, where hijacks are really prevalent, criminals have found ways to bypass all of this technology. So any technology you can think about, they have it in South Africa with this truck, and the criminals jam it. We have these cases on a daily basis where, you know, companies have brought goods from Tambo, and they're moved from Johannesburg to say DRC, or maybe they're to move from Johannesburg down to Durban or other areas, and these goods are being intercepted in the highway with people that are heavily armed. no signal goes out because they bring their own devices and they jam the signals and nothing goes out. And what we have found is that a bit of foreplanning is needed. You ensure, if you know, say for example, that there's a certain highway, there's a certain path, or there's a certain modus operandi that these hijackers are taking, then you also need to adapt your processes. What we see our customers doing in South Africa is ensuring that, for example, no driver ever goes out on their own. All these routes where the hijackers either stand by the roadside as a fake police officer, or maybe they wait for you by the traffic light to see when it turns to get onto your truck and move you around. They make sure that they avoid these spaces. They implement things like do not, if you're driving and there's nightfall, never park by the roadside, always move to a fuel station. Now, while that does not eliminate the problem in itself, but I think it significantly reduces the opportunity for these hijacks to occur. So yes, I just wanted to chip in there. Thank you.
Just to add one other relatively no-brainer solution. I mean, Kingsley, you're talking about the high-tech hijacking. Sometimes we also see the low-tech hijacking, which is again, just the vehicle doesn't make it. The vehicle breaks down. So one of the solutions that Cindy's working on, and I hate to repeat myself too many times, but as an ecosystem, what we also do is we plug in vehicle financiers. So we have both Yamaha and Toyota on our platform who do vehicle financing to our transporters based on the performance and the deliveries that they do. So if you're an active transporter on our platform and you have good data, and I mentioned data because that's segue into the next topic, but if you have good data, you can qualify for things like better vehicles. Better vehicles can dramatically decrease your loss, your theft, and your efficiency, increase your efficiency.
Thank you so much, Malaika, for this addition. And yes, as you already mentioned, we have a perfect bridge to the next topic, which is data, potential lack of data as an enabler for better or smarter logistics. Chuka, maybe as you already talked a little bit about it and at least mentioned that this is a real challenge, would you maybe explain us a little bit more? How is the situation for Procter & Gamble, and what could be the benefits if more data in the distribution chains would be available?
Awesome. Yeah. Procter & Gamble, we're being very proactive about this, right? We are doing a lot into data analysis. That's one of our key competencies that we're leveraging to stay ahead of the challenges coming. But yes, Africa is Africa. We still have those challenges of not having the right data. You will see this affecting in forecasting, right? Use simple things. If you want to forecast your sales, for example, in a country like I'm using just something a bit fictitious. Let's say DRC. So, how do you get even the data? What is the last year numbers? What is the trend in the different channels, right? So when you start going down to what you expect by channel, by, different categories, it becomes a problem. You can say, okay, we should be able to do, let's say, $1 million or XSS $1 million here. But if you want to double click to understand what is driving what? So is it coming from a traditional trade? Is it coming from modern trade? Is it coming from this? Is an issue. The other thing is, even if you bring it home to logistics, visibility is a key component of being able to analyze your issue and being able to create an intelligence system that will tell you, no, don't follow this route because at this point in time, XYZ happens within this route. Take this route. So you need a lot of information technology systems to be able to overcome some of these challenges where you don't even have it at all. For example, you go to some other countries, you'll be able to easily go to Google and be able to find the location of the different stores that do certain things in a location. If you go to Africa, you might not be able to do it, especially when you start going to the rural areas. So you need to manually get the locations, find the stores and all the stuff. So these are some of the challenges we are seeing. But if I have to group it, I will group it into data relevant to make planning and business decision, and then data relevant to visualize the end-to-end of your supply chain, right? So with information technology, with different things we're doing, we're able to kind of like create a control system that enables us visualize our supply chain from raw material sourcing all the way till product gets to the shelf. And even when it gets to the shelf, being able to visualize to see, am I going out of stock on the shelf, right? Because we call it on-shelf availability. Being able to devise that technology that tells you at the right time, proactively or real time, this particular product is out of stock or is going to be out of stock in the next 3 days. It will trigger replenishment. So yeah, that level of visualization goes a long way in driving proactiveness in supply chain, in driving analysis of issues, in creating a cognitive system, an intelligent system that can also respond proactively without having to always react to issues as they come. So yeah, data availability, analysis, and all the stuff are really, really key to driving supply chain. And with what we have today, the world is going in the right direction in solving this problem. We have the big data and the data analytics, we have Internet of Things, we have cloud computing, there are a lot of things coming up. And then companies that are ahead are really tapping into these technologies to build the visualization, get the right data, and then use it for business decisions and analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuka, for this perspective. Malaika, I saw that you were well, a little bit proactively reacting. Any spontaneous reaction to this from your side?
No, I mean, I agree with everything that Chuka is saying. I think one of the benefits, again, of this continent is that some of these things already exist elsewhere in the world. And we have the benefit of watching it exist elsewhere and moving faster, right? We see how this optimizes supply chain. We see auto triggering deliveries or order fulfillment based on inventory. And so these are all solutions that exist elsewhere, which we can then help bring to the continent faster. And I mean, Sandy's doing a lot of this. And it is all based on data, so I 100% agree. We like to say that we are technically a logistics platform, but we say our vision is to be a data platform.
Okay, thank you so much. Stefan, even though you just said that from the terminology, your company is maybe in the 90s, but I think as well, data and all these enabling technologies are also somehow used in your processes. What is your observation on this topic?
I mean, no, it's not a company in the 90s. It's the industry as a whole is in the 90s. But, data is great, but ground intelligence is better. When you have people on the ground, I mean, I'm doing some project in Ethiopia where basically clients is asking about the different modules, but what he forgets is that there's a complex integrate. So for me to get from Djibouti to that part of the world of Ethiopia is a challenge. And that the data is there, but the route, boots on the ground will tell you how best to get to the final destination. That's my opinion. But for sure,
counter that. Counter that.
Go ahead, Malek.
Boots on the ground used to tell you the best way to get there.
You see, I told you I'm old.
That's how we used to do it, right? But if people can do it, then technology can do it. right? The same way that Google is tracking every single phone which is using maps, right? Or Samsung or Apple is tracking where all these phones are moving. And they can instantly figure out when a road is closed because phones no longer take a certain road. We can do the same thing with our trucks, right? So as long as you track the trucks long enough, then you no longer need the people on the ground because you have digitized that information from the boots on the ground into data points. And then you use machine learning to automatically tell you what to do next, you know, which route to go.
I agree, but situation in some countries is so volatile that one day the digital will tell you, yes, it can be done. The following day, it's not possible anymore. I mean, even today, during the COVID pandemic, tomorrow, which is the 31st, on the 30th, I was supposed to go to Bahrain. And guess what? I did everything because the country is open. Yesterday, they said the country is closed.
But imagine crowdsourcing the information from boots on the ground through platforms like Twitter, right?
Sure.
So you no longer need the people, you need the tools that are pulling this data from the live platforms that collect this information on the ground.
But you need the boots on the ground to do that, right? So whomever's going to be on the ground to tell you, hey, there's a situation, is still someone, living it.
Yeah, but you don't, it's true, but you don't need to put those people there, right? People volunteer information all the time, right?
Mm.
When a crisis hits, you don't need to go put people on the ground. You don't need to go put people on the ground to assess what's happening. You can just follow social media and crowdsource what is happening. And so in that sense, I think the benefit of technology is like getting the information faster, getting it from a wider source of people, and not needing to go in and like put the assets, the people, invest in the cost to get it. You can get it super fast and super cheap and super real time.
No, okay, maybe I didn't say I'm going to put my people on the ground. I said whomever is entering the crowdsourcing, the crowdsourcing is from people that are living it, right? So that's what I meant, that the human touch, in our business is about the human interaction. Yeah, yes, digital makes us more efficient sometimes, but you still need the people to make it happen. That's what I meant, that boots on the ground. So maybe I didn't make myself clear enough. I didn't mean that we just rely on our own people, but it's just you need some data, some human interaction to get this information to digitalization. I know.
Yeah, let me.
So,
fascinating debate. Okay, one last.
No, I'm going to add on to that. So I'm gonna follow up with what Stefan said and say that I do agree, right? Like there's a way to turn information into a data point, right? And so you're saying the boots on the ground are the way that you turn it into a data point. And I want to talk about one thing that we had talked about as a challenge is mapping addresses. And so one of the other things that Sandy does is we use our drivers on the ground to remap every location. So what we see is that what a customer puts in as a delivery location might not be necessarily what matches on Google Maps, which also doesn't match with where we actually do the delivery. So we triangulate this information, the written directions from the customer, the Google Maps pin, and the actual drop point from the driver to try to recalculate what is the actual location and how do we put another layer of data on top of a platform like Google to make it easier to find locations. And so this is just another example of how, yes, it's true, our drivers are the boots on the ground. They're the ones who are collecting this for us at every single delivery that we do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Let me bring in Kingsley as well, and I shortly explain you why, because we discussed in our intro meeting on data as well. Why? Because we were both touched with a law in Germany which just passed the parliament. It is called the Global Supply Chain Transparency Law, which basically says that by law the producer and the logistics service provider and responsible entities for global supply chains have always tracked back the source of the product to the raw material. And Kingsley, I just wanted to bring you in and ask what will this be for a challenge? I mean, the law won't be in place next year and also not in 2 years, but maybe in 5 years. And do you think that this will have an impact as well for the global supply chains?
Definitely have an impact. I think the law in Germany, well, so it is still under discussion. It's not very clear what direction this is going to take, but generally, I think it is to the effect that German companies that are sourcing product from different countries around the world have a responsibility to ensure that the companies that are providing this goods or services are not either harming us as a society or the environment. So there's a huge element there that has to deal with human rights and things like that. But if I can just focus a little bit just on the goods perspective. Yes, from a transparency perspective, particularly for the companies that are on the African continent, what we find or what we imagine is a scenario where the African trader, the African fruit exporter, will have to open up themselves to deeper scrutiny from their German buyer. That is to say, the German buyer would want to know, when exactly was this avocado harvested? From there, what happened to it? How long did it take from the farm to the pack house? In the pack house, how long was it there? What did you do with it at the pack house? From the pack house, when was it stuffed in the containers, and when did it go to the food store? So these are questions which today it's not very easy to have the answer. But with our tool, the way we are building our workflow in our tool is to ensure that we provide data points for key steps within the logistics supply chain, such that the company that sits in Germany and wants to store goods from Africa, from their platform, they'll be able to tell when and where the good is at a particular point of view. And I want to make a distinction between what we do and an IoT service provider. So an IT service provider would pick up a data point because they have put in an IoT device within a box or within a container. That does not tell you what is the state of the cargo or the physical cargo itself. It tells you that, okay, this thing which is within this box is at this spot, and this is the temperature. It doesn't tell you if that thing is actually potato, a stone, or what you're buying, or gold. I'm not sure. So what we do is by combining visual evidence, structured text, and geofencing, geolocation, we are able to then collect relevant data that tells us this is actually avocado, and this avocado moved from this stage to this stage before it went into the container. So yes, things are definitely going to change for African traders, especially those that are trading with Germany. But given the size of Germany, I expect that this law is going to be adopted by wider Europe. So therefore, those that are trading with European countries, I suspect that they will be impacted by this law, and they will be in a really good position if they were to work with us to start mapping out this process. So it doesn't come as a surprise. It doesn't come as, it doesn't create a lot of bottleneck from their side to comply with this law, which is currently under discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kingsley, for this insight. And only for those who are interested, this law is called in German Lieferkettengesetz. I think one have to keep this word in mind if it will really get enforced. Finally, I want to focus on a topic which is related to innovation development. Digital technologies and digitization is always a matter of something which is new. And as the framework of our DigiLogic project focuses also on the relation and the interplay between, let's say, young entrepreneurs, talents who have ideas, who want to develop either their own solution, maybe also a startup. And as we have two more or less startup companies, at least young companies here in the panel. I would maybe start also to talk and want to talk about this. Chuka, in your case, Procter & Gamble, when there are so many challenges, are you in the regions also collaborate with local, let's say, innovation hubs with universities or other entities which help you to, well, to get inspired to develop maybe new technologies and innovations?
Thank you very much for that question. By the way, one of the things Procter & Gamble do is trying to develop the community that we live and we work in, right? So this, we try to build the local capability. We try to make sure that we're leveraging the resources on ground to deliver the overall business goal. So we don't, even a situation where we have to import something or get capability externally into the community, the long-term plan will be this capability will come, develop local capability, and then leave, so that we start leveraging that local capability to do the business as a way of building the society where we stay in. And as you see, if you go across most of the countries we've talked, we have our customers, our distributors, are local players, right? Some of the things we work with, we used to go to market, are local providers, the logistics providers and all those stuff. Yeah. Then, but the back end system of Procter & Gamble, because it has to be the same across all Procter & Gamble world, right? So that has to be the platform where Procter & Gamble operate, but that's like our ERP system. So that will be, but how we integrate it in the different markets to the customers and everything, we try as much as possible to leverage what is on the ground and to build the capability of the local players as a way of impacting value.
Thank you. Thank you for this explanation. And Stefan, maybe also the question in your direction, are you cooperating, or where are you sourcing your innovation and your, let's say, optimization issues from? Is it just from the market? Are you just purchasing this? Are you developing on your own, or are you also collaborating with others?
Collaboration. I mean, collaboration, and you know, company like Sandy, where instead of reinventing the wheel, we could go to them and see how we could collaborate, and because at the end we're complementing, right, each other. I believe so, right, Malaika? She does that part, we do that part. So how do we work together is what will be the tool instead of reinventing. I always believe that let me do what I do best and do it better. Let me do what I know how to do, freight forwarding and logistics and 3PL. Let the expert do the rest. Because for me, freight forwarding can always improve and get better and better. So let me just focus on what I know and let me do what I do, as opposed to because when you branch out, you know, CMA, CGM came up, they have now 2 planes, yeah? And people say, oh, they get into the air freight market. An ocean carrier will never be an air freight carrier. It's just a different DNA, different mentality. When you have companies such as, you know, a lot of, I'm trying to remember, there was a I believe to Siva or someone that got incorporated with a contract logistic company. They're freight forwarding. It's different DNA. It's not the same philosophy. So that's why I do what I do. I go to Sandy, I say, listen, let's do something together and then make it happen.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for this insights. And Malaika, what is your experience? Maybe you could also share with us, even though you are a startup company, and I think you are somehow navigating in your own innovation ecosystem. How is it in your region? Are you connected to any cooperation partner, other startups, or even research organizations?
Yeah, so Sandy is definitely one of the pioneers for the high growth tech startups in the region, as well as for tech logistics in Africa. So, I mean, I think we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders to not only make sure that we do well, but also to make sure that we give back to the ecosystem that we're really trying to build. So, I mean, little things like we have an engineering team here based in Kenya of 60 engineers. So just building really cool tech companies that engineers who come out of university can grow within, right? That can be mentored and you know, because if Google doesn't have a hub here or Facebook doesn't have a hub here, like where do you go to be mentored and grow through a tech business? So having that as an opportunity for engineers. We also do things like we participate in data hackathons, where we actually give some of our data anonymously, and we give problems to solve. So this can be like a 3 day to 5 day hackathon, and we will submit a project and be part of the review committee to you know, find the next brilliant minds of Africa. And then the last bit is, I mean, I think just pushing our clients and our transporters to think technology, right? So, you know, to get Stefan to think like, oh, wait, hold on, maybe I could put a partner on top of what we provide, and to get Chuka to think that like, hold on, maybe there's a technical solution to the unreliability of the transporters in the market. So changing the mindset of both sides of the market, the clients and the transporters, that there's a technical way to make this easier.
Thank you so much. This is a great finding already, but I also want to ask Kingsley, because I know that you are also quite active in the, let's say, in the innovation scene, participating in many award pitches and so on and so forth. What is your observation, and how are you related and well, developing your innovation and technologies further?
So when I started my first company in Africa, I always had at the back of my mind a mission to leverage what I learned from around the world and improve the abilities on the African continent. So one thing that we are focused across all our companies is to ensure that we do knowledge transfer. For Optimus right now, my CTO is German, he's based in Germany. Our developers are all in Cameroon. And he oversees the code, the development of our solution, and we develop all of our solution in-house. So this is a guy who is working with some of the best companies here in Germany, and he has direct access to my developers in Cameroon. And what that means is they are learning practical, you know, tips and tricks around development, software development from one of the best, you know, minds that exist out there. So from that perspective, I think, or maybe from an optimist perspective, what we are really strong on is knowledge transfer. We have attended some acceleration programs, and we are taking part in hackathons and pitch competitions. The goal of that really is to be able to learn more and share more with our team on the African continent.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. And yes, I think this was already the final round of our dialogue. We tackled fascinating topics, discussed and exchanged opinions and insights. Thank you very much for this. It was really a great honor to have you today in this session. And for the audience, please observe DigiLogic project because there will be things to come. For instance, a learning portal where you can find more insights and also matchmakings between people who are interested in the logistics industry with a special focus on Africa, and on the other hand, with innovators, disruptors, talents who are interested in getting to know more about the logistics domain and the industry. Please follow us at www.digilogic.africa and stay tuned. We also want to thank the European Commission, as the DigiLogic project belongs to the Horizon 2020 program, which enables us all to facilitate such great events, which we have done in the last 1.5 hours. Thank you very much for participating, and have a great afternoon.